Well, hello, Herb Society of America Pioneer Unit. It's Autumn Schulze, and I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you physically this year and at this time, but I hope that this presentation finds you well. So, in case you don't know who I am an herbal medicine practitioner, and I also am a holistic gut health coach. My story really evolved with my father's cancer journey. So I had gotten a bachelor's in biomedical science, and I spent about 13 years in the pharmaceutical drug trial realm. And I ran regulatory within there. I went around the country and I audited different patient files, and I specialized in cardiology, inflammatory diseases, and dabbling in cancer as well. And when I was really seeing those really large patient files, especially at MD Anderson in Houston with the cardiology unit and everything, and just seeing what the human body goes through and sometimes the progression of disease states, it really started to open my eyes to see what was happening to Americans. And then about 4 years ago, my father's cancer came back, and so that had me do about a 180. I sat by his side during his treatment, and it was about 2 years, and during that time I got certified as a health coach. I got trained as an herbal medicine practitioner, took 2 years worth of coursework, and really wanted to be able to utilize as much as we could to make him feel better and palliate his symptoms. And that worked really great, although after a few years his organs did succumb to the chemotherapy and could not function any longer. So in that aspect, though, my father said, I wish I knew then, I wish I knew then. So I am living testimony to my father's journey, to the pain and suffering that he went through, and to where I don't want other people to have to go through it. So that's why I do not go back to pharmaceuticals. I share the beauty of plants as medicine with everyone. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you understand a little bit more about my background story. I'm getting goosebumps every time that I share this, and I'm glad I can do it without crying now. But I lost my father about 3 years ago. So he's the reason why I am in front of you today and am blessed to be able to connect with you. So I know that he's here with us. So basically, today I want to talk to you about herbal first aid and some everyday immune boosters. So I wanted to first welcome you all here. I'm glad that you're here with me. I'm glad that you've invited me in, and I'm so happy to be with you. If you feel the need, feel free to pause, go and make your favorite beverage, have some hot tea, and get ready to settle in with me for a little while. So today's immune herbal products to consider from a first aid perspective and an everyday perspective are going to include, we're going to talk about different herbs to be able to utilize, which you may be familiar with some of them already. We're going to talk about how to be able to utilize them in skin soaks, bath soaks, how to utilize them in steams for the respiratory process, right? Or even pulling things out of the skin. We're going to talk about herbal powders and how to actually make those and be able to utilize those. And then we're going to talk about infusing herbs into oil to be able to use them on your skin topically, and then turning those into salves. And the different salve, I say salve, I don't know, I pronounce the L, some people say salve, so I don't know, tomato, anyway. And then I'll also be talking about a fire immune cider and giving you a place to be able to download my favorite recipe for it. So I think we have a lot of fun stuff to be able to cover, so I'm just going to jump in, all right? So this is Comfrey Symphytum officinale. And so I'm going along with the PowerPoint presentation, so you can feel free to have that up or handy. So Comfrey Symphytum officinale. So really the official name, Symphytum officinale, means a symphony of uses with the symphytum, and then the officinale, really, so anything that has officinale at the end of the common name as a Latin term for the herb means that it was once part of official U.S. pharmacopoeia. So really cool stuff. So, but comfrey, I would have to say comfrey and calendula kind of like battle it out as to my favorite skin herbs and to be able to help. So comfrey actually contains B12. It is a cell proliferator. So what that means is, really the different parts of the plant, including the flower heads, are rich in allantoin. And that actually encourages cell division and repair and proliferation. So it's actually going to speed up the healing process. It's great for different wounds, sprains, even minor fractures. I know one of my herbal mentors, Ellen Zimmerman, she actually hurt her tibia when she was skiing and was able to utilize internal comfrey supervised, because she's an herbalist, and then also external comfrey in order to mend those bones faster than even the doctors could believe. So comfrey can also be known as knit bone, one of its many common names. So the comfrey oil is actually great for joints, for arthritis support as well. It's really popularly used in a poultice or a salve or a bath. So when you're thinking about a poultice, that's kind of when you're out in the field or when you want to cut up the fresh herb and be able to wet it. You can even do it with dry herb and wet it and be able to make kind of a little compress. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in today's presentation. But comfrey can also be helpful for varicose veins. It's a wonderful astringent. It's also demulcent, so it's going to move things through, especially within the respiratory tract, kind of mucousy type things, right? Kind of lubricates, if you will. And then it's also anti-inflammatory. So comfrey is just a wonderful, wonderful herb to be able to utilize. And so I have a lot of goodies here, so I'm going to be reaching to show you. So I do actually have a couple of things that I've utilized comfrey in. So I call it simply comfrey salve and salve. And so really what I do is I infuse. We're going to talk about oils and how to do that. So we'll talk about how to infuse the oil and then turn it into a salve later on. So I have a plain comfrey salve here. And then I also have something that I call a super salve. I need to come up with another name because somebody else uses the name. So I'll change that the next time I print them. However, I might just call it my triple salve because I infused lavender and calendula and comfrey in this one. So it's a really amazing powerhouse to be able to have different skin options for different needs, right? Let's see, so moving on, so comfrey, it's high in calcium and vitamin C. Like we said, it really expedites wound healing and speeds it up, and it is a natural anti-inflammatory. So I have some pictures here of the beautiful little purple to white flowers that kind of come out of comfrey as well. The bees really love it too. So next I want to talk about one that you've definitely, I would think, have heard of, the purple coneflower, or Echinacea purpurea. So I prefer the purpurea of the echinaceas because it grows really well here in Texas. It doesn't mind the heat. It's just happy as a clam with the heat as long as you keep her watered. And I really love Echinacea as one of my first go-to powerhouses. And there's actually been some clinical studies with Echinacea that I want to mention really quick. So it's been published in the Lancet Infectious Diseases from the University of Connecticut. They performed a meta-analysis and they had about 14 different studies. And they actually determined that Echinacea can cut the common cold's duration and the chances of getting it by 58%. So it cuts the chances of getting it by 58%, but it also reduces the duration of the common cold by 1.5 days on average. She's really amazing. And when I use the purple coneflower, I will use the aerial parts, so I'll use the flower and the leaves, and I'll also use the underground parts, so I'll use the root as well. So all three of those are actually infused into my Echinacea tincture, into my Echinacea elderberry elixir that I have, so I use the whole plant when it comes to Echinacea. And remember, if you're using the root of a plant that you are growing, you want to be able to utilize that and harvest that in the late fall, because remember, that's when all of the plant's energy is going down into that plant, into the roots itself. So it's going to be more potent medicine. And you only want to take roots after year 2 or moving forward, because you want to give the plant a chance to really get its diversity and its microbiome under the ground and really be able to establish itself and proliferate. So when using Echinacea, my favorite way is as a tincture, but it's also beautiful in a tea too. It's a little bit, if you have really good quality Echinacea, especially with a tincture, it's going to slightly numb the tongue, like kava kava. And so that slightly numbing of the tongue lets me know that it's good quality and that it's working well. So it has been echinacea has been extensively researched as an antibiotic, being able to treat a range of infections. It's an immune stimulant, infection fighting, anti-allergenic. It's also a lymphatic tonic, so it's going to help move the lymph system and tonify the lymphatic system, which is part of our trash can, right? Moving things out of the body, right? Being able to get those bad things out. It's also antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory, which is really, really great because a lot of folks are having inflammation and pain issues and different things like that. Not to say that's going to cut it completely, but it's not going to hurt. And then it especially is helpful for cuts, wounds, and the flu, even often as a decoction or a tincture. So we're going to talk about how to use it on cuts in just a little bit, but I want to talk to you about a few herbs before I talk to you about how to utilize them within a little first aid kit, right? So the next herb that I want to be able to talk about is yarrow. Yarrow, she's so beautiful. So Achillea millefolium, you're getting it real, right? So some of these Latin terms are a little bit difficult to pronounce, but when I think about yarrow, the first thing I think about is it is a styptic. So it's going to stop bleeding. So I really think about wound powders. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So a fresh poultice of the powdered, a poultice of fresh herb or even powdered or dried herb is going to be wonderful to encourage external clotting factors. It's an astringent, so it's known to tone and tighten issues. Diaphoretic, it causes sweating throughout the body, and it's great to be able to use in a fever mixture. So I had a friend who thought he was having COVID symptoms, so I brought him feverfew, yarrow, and peppermint tea. Make sure that you're using the flowers with the feverfew and the yarrow as well. And it really was able to help out. Basically making a cup of tea and drinking it every hour until the fever breaks. Sweat it out, right? It's a really wonderful tool to be able to utilize. So it's also a peripheral vasodilator. So vasodilator, it's going to cause the blood vessels to dilate, right? And peripheral means the external. So it's going to help with distant blood vessel dilation and helping that blood flow move through the body, especially if you have some constrictions or blockages. It's also a wonderful digestive stimulant as well, so it could be used in a bitters formula. Like I said, it's a febrifuge. So febrifuge, meaning it's going to break a fever, it's going to make you sweat it out. So it's going to cause sweating, it's going to break the fever on a multitude of levels. Is wonderful, yarrow. And then lastly, something a little silly that you could actually do in the garden. So if you're having a nosebleed, you can actually take a yarrow leaf, stick it right up your nose, and it's gonna help be able to stop that bleeding. Little known fact, right? So before I became an herbalist, I didn't really like the smell of lavender. It's grown on me though, and the one I particularly like is Lavandula officinalis. Lavandula augustifolia is really nice as well, from France. And so that's actually what this one is. But there's Lavandula officinalis, which again with the officinalis means that it was part of U.S. Pharmacopoeia. And I do store all of my herbs in glass jars. I get my big ones from Uline, U-L-I-N-E. It's a wonderful resource to be able to get these. That's where I get my tincture bottles and salve tins and all that kind of stuff in bulk. So Lavandula officinalis, we're going to use the flower, right? So it's traditionally used actually for courage and strength. But it is a wonderful nervine, right? So when I think about lavender, first I think of its nervine properties, helping calm the central nervous system and provide stabilization. So it's relaxing, it's calming, it's uplifting, it helps with insomnia, and it's also antispasmodic for the GI. So you can combine lavender with feverfew for headaches to support different brain function and antioxidant protection. It's good for wounds, cuts, scrapes, burns and scars, wrinkles and acne. It's fantastic as an anti-itch oil. Oh my gosh. And it's also antibacterial, antifungal, antiseptic. It's a wonderful aromatherapy oil to be able to diffuse and be able to utilize to help you sleep and relaxation and calm within the bedroom. And then, of course, I really love to use lavender as a bath soak and even a hand soak as well, or even a foot soak. Heck, why not? So we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes as well. So calendula, like I said, probably like my second favorite skin herb. This is the flower herself. I wonder if I show you from the top, if that'll be a little better. Yeah. Okay, so that is calendula. Calendula officinalis. Again, officinalis because it was once part of U.S. Pharmacopoeia. And you'll see a lot of mine have mountain rose herbs because that's where I like to get my herbs certified organic and everything. And I like their sustainability and their process, although they've had a little bit of delayed shipping with COVID. So yes, so calendula flowers. So they're healing, antiseptic, antibacterial, antifungal, and they're astringent. What I love about calendula is it's great for pretty much anybody's skin. So I've seen it work with babies. Like I have a friend, a client slash friend, who we were able to work together for a year on her hormones, and she gave birth in December at 49 to her first baby girl. And her baby girl was having some diaper rash and everything and stinging, and just nothing was making it better. So, you know, she called me up. She was like, I ran out of that calendula salve, you know, nothing else is helping. So I made her some more calendula salve this weekend. And, you know, you can make it in different sizes. This is a 4-ounce size that I have. And the calendula salve and even calendula oil can be used for psoriasis, eczema, open wounds, rashes, sensitive skin, babies, to the elderly. Like calendula is a powerhouse go-to as a skin starter, as something that I begin to utilize people with. And you can even utilize it with coconut oil and even make vaginal suppositories. For example, I've had clients who have had radiation or different treatments for cancer, and so they're just kind of tender in the lady area. And then so the calendula can actually help with that too. So it's a wonderful powerhouse that can be drank as a tea. It can be put on externally as well. So a wonderful, wonderful herb. It's vulnerary, so it actually, just like comfrey, it will help heal wounds by promoting cell repair and growth. So a really awesome powerhouse to be able to have within your arsenal. It's a lovely, subtle anti-inflammatory. You can also make a calendula light soak, or even just little calendula tea bags, and be able to put them on your eyes to help with puffy eyes. So if someone has been crying, quick to tears, or they just need a little bit of help in that area, brightening and whatnot, calendula can be used as a wonderful little light, not hot tea, but just warm tea kind of, or even cool tea, a compress for the eyes as well. So now I want to move on to mullein. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about mullein before. Verbascum thapsus is, oh no, Autumn, you grabbed the comfrey. That's not the right one that you want to grab. You want to grab the mullein. So mullein, I just love the way that she looks in the wild, and I love the way that she looks when you have her cut. So in the wild, she will have these beautiful leaves that come up, and I've even seen them come up a few feet, and then this beautiful flower stalk right in the middle with these wonderful yellow abundant little flowers coming off of it. And I actually have met her in Colorado, in kind of the mid-mountain range near water is where I've seen that she likes to be. The leaves are actually very, very fluffy, and they have little bitty hair-like projections on them. So oh, herbal dust always gets to a girl. So, mullein leaf. So yeah, you use the leaf of the plant, and it's actually, you know, when I think about mullein, I think about the lungs. That's the first thing that I think about, because it's an expectorant. It helps move things through, right? And actually in herb school, we actually rolled a joint with just mullein and smoked it. It wasn't pleasurable, but it definitely got you coughing. It got things moving. So it was just an experience. for us to realize that if you can get mullein into the respiratory system, it's going to move mucus, it's going to move things out and help with those cilia and help move things along, right? So I think of the leaves as a cough remedy, a respiratory disorder supporter, chronic coughs, throat pain. It can be utilized in a steam, in a tea. You want to really filter the tea to get those little hairs out. And then it can also be made into a wonderful cough syrup or even cough drop kind of helper. It is a lovely expectorant, like I said, moving things through, demulcent, so it's going to kind of lubricate as it moves things through. A mild diuretic, so it will help you tinkle a little bit more and move fluid. Remember, fluid pushes fluid out of the body. A sedative, so mullein is a slight sedative, so it will help a little bit. It's not one of my go-tos, but it does have that kind of a property, right? So the flowers themselves are astringent and anti-inflammatory. They can be used in a chest rub or even a sinus steam. And you can actually utilize and infuse the flowers into an ear oil. Sometimes they mix it with garlic and mullein flower. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to use for ear infections, for swimmer's ear, for pain within the ear. A wonderful thing that you can even utilize for children. And then, like I said, a sinus steam is my favorite way to actually be able to utilize mullein. But a syrup that tastes great would be a wonderful way to be able to dose as well. So we only have 2 more herbs and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So red clover. I really wanted to be able to talk to you guys about red clover. So, I tighten them too tight sometimes. So this is red clover. You can kind of see the stems and the little flower that's in there. And I've met red clover on the stream side in Colorado. Just beautiful, beautiful. She was really short there because I think they kept cutting the grass and stuff, but I've seen some pictures of different folks having it growing, and it actually can get inches, foot tall, you know. So I'm learning about seeing them in the wild too. But basically red clover, when I think about red clover, the first thing that I think about is lymphatic movement. Right? I put red clover in my father's Essiac tea that I made him, his cancer fighting tea. But it's, you know, red clover is known as a historic blood cleanser. I mean, when something's identified as a blood cleanser, you know, we need to invite that into our lives at times. It's antispasmodic, so it's going to stop muscle spasms. It's going to support it anyway. It's a mild laxative and a diuretic, so fluid moves fluid, right? It's moving lymph fluid out. It's going to move other fluids throughout the body. As a lymph cleanser, it helps with swollen glands, right? Our lymph system gets swollen when it's doing its job, right? When it's powerhouse cleaning our body. So we need to help things move along. So something that I kind of learned during my cancer research is we have more blood fluid quartz than we have lymphatic fluid. So we actually have to physically move our lymphatic in order to help it. So like when we instinctively bounce babies, right? We are moving their lymphatic fluid. We're moving it through the body, and it helps them feel better. So there's a lot to be said within the cancer community and the cancer prevention realm of rebounding. Just one of those little, like I have a little, you know, maybe it's a 4-foot, you know, it qualifies like one of those 1980s aerobics trampolines or whatnot, you know, and I just lightly bounce. You don't even have to get air. You just lightly bounce for a few minutes. And you're actually moving your lymphatic fluid throughout the body. The other way to be able to do that would be with lymph brushing. So if you Google lymph brushing, it will give you all the instructions, but basically what you do is you get a brush that's kind of like a shower brush, you know, that if you rub it over your skin 4 or 5 times, it will have a light reddening and actually pulling the blood to the skin, right, and moving things along. So what you would do with the lymph brush is it's dry lymph brushing, so before you get into the shower, when you wake up in the morning and things, it's best to do it when you're dry, not wet from getting out of the shower. And you actually will use the brush and you'll start at your feet and you'll go over the same spot 4 to 5 times and just bring it all the way up your legs, going around the entire leg, right? Bringing it all the way up to your trunk, doing that on both legs. And then starting with your arms, bringing it in from the extremities, from your neck, bringing it down. And you're actually brushing everything towards your heart is the goal, okay? And I've seen people see movement within their lymphatics within minutes of even doing this and starting to find relief in certain ways. The other powerhouse that I don't have in my slides would be Epsom salt. You know, don't underestimate Epsom salt to be able to move lymphatic fluid. When my dad was in his last 2 weeks of life, he was diabetic and he couldn't get out of bed. And so we would sit him up and do a 15-minute Epsom salt soak, and it would just move the fluid and completely reabsorb it and redistribute it throughout his body. And me seeing that firsthand, in an advanced disease state, how it would help the body, was really impactful. What's it going to do for me regularly, right? So I put a copious amount of Epsom salt in my bath water as well as baking soda. You can also do this in just a foot soak. I add the baking soda because it actually counteracts the chlorine competing with my thyroid, which is a whole nother scientific side. I'm getting into the health coach side of me, right? Talking about these things, but you're getting me as if I was right in front of you, just like things coming out. So back to red clover. So it is a wonderful also expectorant for coughs, sore throats, swollen glands, and it's also child safe. It clears toxicity. It can be used for acne, boils, eczema, psoriasis, and you can even use the tea in different lotions. So red clover, like calendula, is one that can be drank, but can also be put outside on the body for support. Okay, one more herb, guys. So burdock root. So this is the root that I'm going to talk about today. So here's an opener. So here's burdock root. So I actually use powdered burdock root and powdered ashwagandha and powdered turmeric in my smoothies every day. So that way every day I'm getting ashwagandha, which is wonderful for the adrenal glands, has a great affinity for the adrenal glands. I'm getting burdock, which is a wonderful liver cooler and mover. So we'll talk about her in a second. And then I put turmeric in my smoothies because it's anti-inflammatory, and because my father had colorectal cancer. There's actually studies that show that turmeric is more effective on colorectal cancer than chemotherapy. So just some cool things, because turmeric stops the angiogenesis, or the new blood supply being formed by the cancer. Because once cancer reaches a certain size, it begins to form its own blood supply and pull its own blood to be able to thrive, right? So we don't want that to happen. So sidebar about my daily smoothies, right? I put flax oil in there, fresh ginger. Okay. So, but burdock, Latin words, burdock, Arctium lapa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. So I would consider, burdock's really a super tonic for preventive and medicinal different reasons. It's rich in iron and magnesium. It supports the immune system in so many different ways, being cleansing and moves metal throughout the body, minute metals, as a detoxifier. Like I said, it's a wonderful blood purifier. It can be a little bit of a laxative, diaphoretic, so it's actually going to move and help you sweat a little bit of things out from the body. Anti-rheumatic, so anybody who's having rheumatism, rheumatoid arthritis, any kind of rheumatic disorder, this is going to be helpful and supportive. It's antiseptic, antibiotic, and of course, like I say, a lymphatic mover. Burdock is also very cooling. Like I said, I think of it as cooling to the liver. It's wonderful for alkalizing stagnant blood conditions. So there's a lot of different conditions out there that deal with the blood, right? And alkalizing. So alkalizing means, when you have a pH scale, you have towards acidic or alkaline. And when you look at people who have cancer, they're all on more of the acidic spectrum side. So anything that you can do to alkalize your body and bring it back to the pH homeostasis, you're going to actually be fighting and preventing cancer. So I always like to kind of keep that in mind. There's alkaline diet premises and different things like that I follow as well. So, but that's health coach side. If you want to talk about that stuff, get with me. So, let's see. So I also, as a decoction, so if you actually take the herb, the burdock root, and simmer it for at least 20 minutes, then you're actually pulling out, as a root, it's roots, barks, and berries need to be decocted versus infused, right? So you need to simmer it for 20 minutes and then strain it out to be able to use it. Now, you can use burdock externally on the skin. It's wonderful for different skin sores, for dry eczema, for boils, for different leg ulcers. You know, it can be used externally and obviously internally as well. And then it's most often combined with dandelion, red clover, or yellow dock. So I put burdock with red clover because they're both lymphatic movers, right? And I put them both in my dad's Essiac tea with a copious amount of peppermint for taste. But yeah, a whole lot of fun. And burdock has the prettiest little purple little flowers. So you can see behind me and in the next picture kind of how I store my herbs. So really I utilize glass jars. Mine are clear because I do have light blocking curtains in this room. If you had it in a room where there was light, you would want to put a curtain rod or something in front of it to kind of block the light, or use amber jars because the light can change the therapeutics of the herbs over time, right? Have them lessen quicker. So, and 2 to 3 years is the herbs to hold their therapeutic value in the dried form, and then it starts to wane slowly, but it starts to wane. A method of there's a lot of different methods of preservation, right? You can use tinctures, oils, honeys, and different things like that. So, but make sure to, store them without moisture, especially, and not too much temperature fluctuation. So now I want to talk to you about powdered herbs and how to be able to use those in a couple of different ways. So what I utilize, ding, I have just this simple little coffee grinder from Amazon. And what I love about this one is I can actually take this part off and clean it separately. Awesome! So, but it's just a little coffee grinder, and I have it dedicated to herbs. Now I have one dedicated to external herbs and one dedicated to internal herbs, even though they're mainly the same. Now you also want to keep in mind, if you're dealing with anything hot, spicy, like cayenne with capsaicin, you want to really dedicate that grinder, or maybe even that crock pot if you're using it, you know, different things. If you're using a certain item for spicy stuff, you maybe want to label it and keep it as such, because you can find that sometimes that spiciness will actually come back and present itself later on within a formula if it's in the equipment that you are using. So just a little something to keep in mind, because none of us want some accidental capsaicin anywhere, right? So but when you talk about herbal pills, so when I'm grinding my herbs, I'll fill probably 1/3 of the cup of this thing, right? And then I will pulsate it. So when you're doing this, you know, you push down this little button and it makes it go. So I'll do, 5 seconds, shake it up, another 5 seconds, but you don't want to go like 10, you don't want to go like 15, 30 seconds with it, because it's really heating up and it can denature the herbs a little bit, right? And so I just keep grinding it. Make sure to tap the top and wait a minute before you open it, or herbal poof will come out everywhere at you. And you can kind of see how it's going. You can put in some more herbs. So the max fill line is way up high, but I usually fill it about halfway. That way I can still shake it. I'll grind, shake, 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 grind, shake, shake, shake. Sometimes even grind while I'm shaking, So just basically, when you're making herbal powders, just remember not to for a long time. Kind of give it a little break and shake it up. So what you can do with herbal powders, so I like to be able to, if you take the powdered herb and you mix it with honey, you can actually make little pill balls. And that's a lot of fun with children, especially because they're involved in it. They'll be more likely to imbibe the therapeutic support, if they had something to do with it. So even for like children, like chamomile or lemon balm to help with the tummy, even a little bit of peppermint, things like that, can be very helpful. But as an adult, like, I hate like pills I have to swallow, right? So I'd rather chew a little herbal pill, take a little, I have a liquid multivitamin that I love. Let me silence my phone. We don't want that interrupting us. So let's see. There's also electuary. So an electuary is when you have like a decent amount of honey and you actually spoon in some powdered herb with that and mix it up. Not making it so dry that you could put it into a ball, but leaving it really juicy, right? In the theory of you could take a spoonful of this powdered herb honey, and be able to put it in a cup and make a tea with it, or you can just go ahead and take it by the spoonful and be able to dose that way. A little bit of a different idea, right? And honey is great for wounds, so this could be utilized with different wound powders that we'll talk about in a minute, and actually adding honey and being able to utilize that for support. So, like I said, there's the electuary and the pill balls that you can make with the powdered herb. You know, for a kid's tummy, like I say, chamomile, catnip, peppermint, lemon balm. And actually, I have one that I made in, I went to the Herbal Medics Academy. Again, that's the Herbal Medics Academy. It's in San Antonio, and that's where I got my upper level apothecarist training. And there we actually made a canker sore powder, which I wanted to mention to you guys because it's really neat stuff. I mean, we kept the grind. The grind ended up still being kind of thick. I don't know if it'll focus. Let me try. There we go. So it's not like completely powdered, but it's pretty good, right? So you would basically take this canker sore powder and be able to pack it in the mouth and be able to find relief there. So in this canker sore powder, we used a number of ones that we have talked about earlier today. So we talked about echinacea for the immune system and the immune fighting and boosting antimicrobial different properties. We also talked about comfrey for the expeditious healing, right? There's a couple others that I've put in here that I haven't talked about today. Chaparral is also another one. So chaparral grows in kind of like white sage, you know, the high desert plains and things like that. And chaparral has a wonderful, lovely smell, but she is very much infection fighting. She's just supportive to the body. She's radioprotective. So if you know somebody going through radiation for any kind of reason, or if you're going to be out at cancer radiation, or if you're in the sun a lot, chaparral and calendula are actually both radioprotective. Interesting fact. So, but there's echinacea, comfrey, chaparral, and licorice in here, because they can all be licorice root, because they can all be wonderfully supportive to canker sores. So just a little tip there to be able to help you out. So now external wound powders. So this is where it gets really fun, right? So I have a couple that I want to talk to you guys about today. So really, so if you are in the field and you are having, again, in the field, obviously, I mean, this can be used in a field if you are wild harvesting or whatnot, but also in your car, just out and about, to be able to have, first I'm going to talk about kind of an anti-bleeding or a styptic stopping bleeding powder, because I have some friends who take anticoagulants, right? Blood thinners and things, because they have blood clotting disorders and stuff. And so they can't really take anything that's going to thin their blood or coagulate the blood internally, right? So when they cut themselves, I think it's great to be able to have a wound powder for them to utilize to help stop the bleeding and also keep it from getting infected. So what I use in a bleeding field use powder would be yarrow leaf and flowers, just like we had discussed. And then also echinacea root, leaf and flower, using the trio of the echinacea, comfrey leaves, and lemon balm leaves. So I'll read that one more time, even though it's in the slides. We have yarrow leaf and flower powder, we have echinacea root, leaf, and flower powder, and then we have comfrey leaf powder and lemon balm leaf powder. So it's going to be antiviral, it's going to be proliferative, help the wounds heal faster, it's going to be antimicrobial, anti-infective, and it's also going to stop the bleeding. So there's a lot of different levels as to why that powder could be helpful. So I have another powder here that I want to show you. Well, actually, that's this one. Echinacea, yarrow, comfrey, and lemon balm. So let me see if I can get... Whoops, see how it just poofed there? So it's a really, really, as fine as we can get it, powder. and I kind of sift it through a noodle colander, like a really thin little noodle colander, to be able to help get the bigger pieces out, and then I'll grind it again, grind the bigger pieces again, and it's kind of a process where you move the powder through into your other container and put stuff back in to grind again, and put in a little bit more of the new plant material because it helps it just get robust in order to be able to grind. So, but that's a wonderful herbal wound powder, and again, label everything because you won't remember what it is, especially if it's just a green leaf or it's a freaking powder. I don't know what it is, so let's label it, right? Good stuff. So that's a wonderful field powder to be able to utilize. So now I want to talk about actually external wound and herbal compresses and poultices. So let's just say, for example, I have here, okay, so this is a, these are two of them. So I have a bug bite bath mix, and I also have a skin and scar bath mix. So these, you could actually not just use them in a soak, which we'll talk about in a minute, but you could actually utilize them as a compress or a poultice to the skin. So a poultice really is where you're taking the actual herb itself and either you're chewing in, getting your saliva with it to get it wet if you're in the field, or you're mixing it with some water and actually making almost kind of like a gooey ball with the herbs, right? And if you had a wound, you're going to pack that gooey herbal poultice onto that wound and let it sit there for a little while to be able to do its magic, right? Sometimes even up to like 8 hours to 24 hours, depending on the situation. And so a poultice is applied directly to the skin, you know, crude applied with nothing in between. There's another way to be able to treat the skin, a compress, right? So what I usually do, and in the pictures I have, so a compress is what they call a fomentation, which is the application with a cloth that's been soaked in a plant, usually a tea or a tincture, and you can use infusions or decoctions depending on what kind of herbs you're going to be using, right? The lighter leaves and flowers in infusion, and the roots, barks, and berries in a decoction, and then be able to soak the herb in it. So I do have a couple of pictures where you can actually have the herb inside and put a cloth around it and be able to warm it and actually compress and press the area. But the way that I like to do it, in order to not utilize a lot of tea and really be able to get it as medicinally powerful and potent to the area as possible, it's going to sound a little silly at first, but paper towels, right? So I've tried to do it with cloth compresses, and it just absorbs so much of the fluid. So if you actually have an area and you lay a paper towel on it and then you drip some of the tea on it, get it wet, that wet paper towel is going to stick to the skin, and I usually leave it there for about 15-20 minutes once a day, maybe twice a day if you have the time, and it's going to help with redness, inflammation, raised bumps, you know, hair, ingrown hairs and different things like that, you know. Now, an herbal bath soak, dun 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 dun. So like here's my bug bite bath mix. So it's really meant for soothing and calming the skin, right, and itching and all that kind of stuff. So I put in here gluten-free oatmeal, calendula, lemon balm, comfrey, lavender, chamomile, passion flower, milky oat tops, and plantain. So when you're making a mix, it doesn't have to be 1-to-1 ratios. You know, when I kind of think about formulating, I think about the person that I'm going to be giving it to, and I think about their constitution, I think about what they need and what ratios they need it in. It's definitely a little bit of an art, but here is the bug bite soak. So basically what I would do is I would make an infusion with it, just like any other tea, right? So I'm going to put a couple spoonfuls in a mason jar, I'm going to fill it with simmering water, and I'm going to let it sit 15 to 20 minutes. Then I'm going to pour it into a different mason jar and strain it. Then I will take that whole 32-ounce mason jar and I will pour it into my bath. But the alternative is you could do a compress with it, with the paper towels as well. Or you could take the actual herb, make a poultice. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the same herb in order to help the skin with different things. that are going on, right? So if you have a very large open wound, you may not want to put powder in it. You may want to just do a gentle compress, or even just put some of the tea on it. Just let that kind of soak in, right? And I love to use different bath herbs, and so I'll even do, like I said, Epsom salt in the bath. And if I put some herbs in with the Epsom salt, I actually just get a little organza bag and hang that where the water from the bath is kind of running through it. And so it's really cool to be able to utilize that, because then, especially if you have oatmeal in the bag, kind of makes the oat milk, and you can kind of squeeze it and put it on your décolleté, and just kind of helps soften the skin in general. But I use the organza bag to keep the herbs once the Epsom salt has rolled out, so there's not just herbs floating in my bath and I have to clean it up and different things like that. I live out here on a septic system, so I got to think about what I'm putting down the drain, right? So when we think about herbs for bath, so calming support, chamomile, lavender, lemon balm, passion flower, all of these nervines that work to calm the nervous system when drinking. If you think about it, your skin is one of your largest organs, so it's actually going to be pulling in that nervine relaxing properties through the skin. Calendula is great for inflammation, healing support. Plantain, comfrey, self-heal are going to be wonderful within the bath. For circulation, rosemary, ginger, cinnamon, and lemongrass. Now, I would encourage you to use these in the whole herb form and make a tea and put them in your bath. I find that essential oils sometimes can be a little stingy for me. I only use lavender in the bath because other ones, even at 2-3 drops, have stung my whole skin, right? So, but if you are going to use essential oils, I suggest 1 to 2 drops, maybe even 3 drops per cup of essential oil and per bath. Now, I suggest Epsom salt, Dead Sea salt, Himalayan pink salt. You can even put coconut milk powder, rose or ashwagandha powder in your bath. So just kind of get creative, right? But really, there's a website. I think it's seasalt.com. The company's called Saltworks. If you just Google Saltworks, that's where I get all of my Epsom salt. They deliver really large poundage of bags without the essential oils in there. So you can add them if you want, or if you're sensitive, leave them out as well. So I found that's easier than buying the real expensive little, $5 ones. So I want to talk to you about steams now. So I'm going to pull out my sinus steam, and you can see in the slides I have a picture. I actually did in Round Top. I went to the Belle of Round Top last September and was actually honored to be able to be a host for a women's retreat. The owner had about 20, well, not 20, it was probably about 10 gals come in that she's known since grade school. So it's really cool to be able to host a wonderful herbal event for them, teaching them about herbal beauty. We did facial steams, we did masks, we took those facial steams, used them as a foot soak later on, and we did facial scrubs and everything like that, and made all of it ourselves there. So it was a lot of fun, and the picture is of a group of the gals around doing the herbal steams. So, and it kind of shows you how you want to do them. So this is my, let's see if I can get it in clear here, even though it's backwards. It's my sinus support steam. You can find it on my website. But basically, this steam is sage, rosemary, calendula, mullein, and red clover. So remember, we've talked about mullein, red clover, and calendula already today. Rosemary and sage are very drying. Okay, so that's why I added them to the mix. And if that's all you have, it'll still work, So it's just a beautiful mixture, smells lovely. And basically what you do is, again, you put it in I put it in for about 5 minutes to lightly simmering water. And lightly simmering. I'll actually get it up to a simmer, maybe even turn it off, and then put the herbs in there, and just kind of keep it warm, keep it right almost at that simmer for 5 minutes. When the herbs are in there really wet, they started to infuse and the steam is coming out, then I'm going to move that pot onto a hot pad onto the table. I'm going to grab a towel and I'm going to tent myself over this steam, right? You want to keep in mind the steam is hot. Be careful breathing it in. Be careful getting it into your eyes. You want to leave kind of a little venting open on the towel to be able to get some air out, right? But steams are absolutely fabulous for the respiratory system. And I thought that it was very important to talk about them, especially right now in the times of COVID. to be able to keep that clean, keep things moving through, right? So it's just a traditional kind of wellness practice to be able to move things through. And I'll have a steam recipe on the handout that I'm giving you guys too. So steams are a lot of fun, but you can utilize those same herbs in different ways and be able to infuse it as an oil. So here it is. Couldn't see it for a second. So I actually have here some infused rose oil. So this, for example, you can see how much herb I put in there. I usually do a third to a half with the herb and the rest with oil. Just a beautiful, beautiful little mixture of rose. So infused oils is our next topic, right? So I infuse a lot of mine in organic extra virgin olive oil just because it's available, it's cheap enough, and it's food grade, right? So basically you take the chopped herbs, and if you're going to use fresh herbs, you want to, they basically, my herb teacher called it dry wilt. So you want to leave them there at least a day, if not 2 days, just to start losing some of that moisture. Because if you put a fresh herb into oil, it's very likely to, because of the water content, to mold. Okay? So take the herbs that are chopped and infuse them in a different carrier oil. Like I said, I used to use almond oil, but I have now a sensitivity to almond oil, so because of different reasons. So I use the olive oil, right? And so basically you let the herbs sit there for a minimum of 6 weeks. I have let the herbs sit for 1.5 years with comfrey before, and it was a wonderful, beautiful infusion. So you can let it sit a minimum, well, some people do a minimum of 2 weeks for oils. I still like to go kind of as far as I can, a minimum of 6 weeks if possible, or even longer, right? Making them in a little bit larger batches. So, and then, just like with a tincture, whenever you pass by, give them a little shake, say, "Hi, I love you, medicine, thank you." Kind of talk to the herbs. The plants still have energetic energy, right? When you take, for example, rose oil, rose essential oil, it's the highest vibrational oil that there is. So there's plant medicine and energy coming down from the divine into these plants and meant to be imbibed by us, giving us this divine energy. So that's just a little bit of my perspective, right? So, but like I said, I love to make lavender oil because it's great and it's just lavender flowers and olive oil, right? You strain it, and you want to cover, whenever you're doing this, you want to completely cover the herbs with oil. Because if they're down and in the oil, they're going to be less likely to mold. If there's some kind of hanging out above the oil, then they're more likely to mold. I've never had one mold on me, but just kind of advice, right? So again, lavender is great for bites and stings, but I wanted to show you, I was just playing around one day, and so I have this super skin oil that I'm just about to start selling, just a few of, because I mainly use it for my private clients. And so I developed this skin oil. It was actually developed in a bath formula, right? And then I was able to take this bath, which the client could soak in. The client had actually had a tummy tuck, and the scar was just not healing. So she came to me a couple months later. I was like, "Why didn't you come to me months ago?" So, but it was helpful once she came. And so there's this bath that I told her to kind of soak in. You could do a compress with it, right, on the skin if you're not able to get into the bathtub. And then I also converted it into this oil. So I basically took the same herbs, soaked them in olive oil, and Bob's your uncle, right? So this one, I actually have some wonderful powerhouses in here. So take note. I have comfrey, yarrow, self-heal, lavender, calendula, rosemary, echinacea, lemon balm, vitamin E oil, and rosehip seed oil. Those last two are used for preservation as well as helping the skin. So, and in the future, I'm actually going to put it in a slightly different bottle because I have some smaller blue and green ones to kind of show that it's for the skin, because this looks exactly like my tincture bottle. So I just want to make sure people don't have two things and imbibe this by accident, which if they imbibe this by accident, it ain't going to do nothing. But still, that oil in your mouth. So anyways, right? So it's packaging thinking too. All right, so salves. Da, 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 da. So if you want to take an oil and turn it into a salve that you can take anywhere, you're just going to add beeswax, right? So the traditional kind of ratio is going to be a cup of oil to a quarter cup of beeswax. Now you can also use carnauba wax, and that'll make it a vegan product. I, so far, even though I am as vegan as possible with my eating, I do find that beeswax is and honey are both very therapeutic, so I use them sparingly in certain products for now, which includes my salve. So basically, you would take the infused oil, and so what I would do is I would strain it, put it in a double boiler, and be able to add the beeswax. So if you want to know how to make your own teas and formulations, tinctures, oils, and salves, at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you about an apothecary course that I'm launching in September, and is actually going to be able to be available for purchase next month, which is probably this month by the time you're seeing this video, in August of 2020. So a wonderful entry-level home apothecarist kind of program, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. So salves. Don't digress, Autumn. So I love salves. So when I was in herb school, we went down by, my teacher had a little creek by her house, or a creek. And so we went down there and we did a little drum circle. And, you know, kind of, I think that's even where we smoked the mullein joint, was down by the water. But I'll tell you, bugs love me in general. And down there, wearing my long pants to try and keep the mosquitoes off, the chiggers loved it. I kid you not, I counted 100 chigger bites on my legs. And I'm telling you, salve, anti-itch salve with chickweed and lavender and calendula, comfrey, I would not have been able to get by, and it healed expeditiously quick, especially even with the numbers of them that I had. Because I'd had chigger bites before. I got introduced to salve, and once I was introduced to salve, honey child, okay, I am not going to treat a chigger bite without it in the future. So salves are a wonderful herbal preparation used externally for a lot of different skin problems. Eczema, psoriasis, rash, burns, cuts, wounds, chaps, lips, frostbite, insect bites, and much more, especially with what the normal herb is being able to be utilized for, right? So, like I said, you can make it in a double boiler with beeswax, slip it into your purse or your pocket, or really easily into a first aid kit to always be able to have around. I didn't mention it earlier, but an echinacea tincture is also wonderful to be able to have in a first aid kit. Whenever I fly or am around a lot of people, or children especially, I am dosing echinacea every 2 to 3 hours in the tincture form. Knock on wood, have never had the flu. Anyways, so let's see what other notes I have. So, I mean, it's solid at room temperature, right? If you put it in your car, it's gonna get, especially in the summer, it's gonna get a little leaky, right? So the other way that I've actually packaged the salve is, like for example, I think it was last week, delivered about 60 little salve sticks. So I put them in lip balm tubes, right? And so I did little samples of salve for Texas Oncology, for all the workers that are having to wear their masks and everything like that. Gave them a calendula salve with just a little bit of yarrow essential oil in there to be able to help heal the skin. So just kind of something volunteering that I do. So that's something that you could also do, is volunteer to make herbal remedies for folks that need them, right? So this next picture is just a picture of me making salve, right? And it just shows you kind of the olive oil, the coconut oil, the vitamin E that I use, the beeswax, and calendula flowers. And so when you're making a salve, I do suggest that you actually get the pellets, because it makes it a lot easier than cutting the beeswax chunks out of something. So I want to leave you with a couple more immune boosting herb ideas, and I have a whole slide to be able to present them, but I'm gonna orally say them really quick, just in case you're not following along with the slides and you just want to be able to listen, right? So immune boosting, so echinacea, elderberry, garlic, and other adaptogen herbs like astragalus and ashwagandha and reishi. So cooling for a fever, yarrow, chamomile, feverfew, and yellow dock. Let's see, sleep support, lemon balm, California poppy, valerian, chamomile, and catnip. Digestive support, all those mints being antispasmodic, lemon balm, peppermint, spearmint, and don't forget passion flower, and even chamomile. Did you know that you could do a diluted chamomile bath tea for a baby and be able to calm their colic symptoms and help them sleep? Cool stuff. You could even do that with the grandkids. Put a couple nervines in their bath. They're going to sleep like a baby. You ain't got to worry about it. You know, like Safe for Children, lemon balm, catnip, you know, for the nervous system. Anti-allergenic, echinacea and nettle. Hello, nettle is a wonderful powerhouse for allergens. Lymphatic tonic. So we talked about red clover, we talked about burdock. Let's also mention cleavers, a wonderful lymphatic cleanser, and also echinacea helps there as well. For anti-inflammation, echinacea, calendula, chamomile, and ashwagandha. An expectorant for cough, we talked about mullein. Don't forget wild cherry bark and slippery elm that can both be beautifully put into cough syrups or drops. And then we also have antiseptic and blood cleansing. So remember red clover and burdock in those circumstances. So lastly, the last little recipe that I'm going to talk to you guys about. So Rosemary Gladstar taught my mentor Ellen Zimmerman, so I have an affinity for the way that she teaches, and I really like how she makes it easy for beginners. So I wanted to highlight Rosemary Gladstar's Fire Cider book. So this has inspired my memory cider that I actually sell to boost memory, but it's my kind of divergence into apple cider vinegar tinctures. So I now make fire cider as well as a memory cider too. Both available on my website. But I want to teach you guys how to actually make my favorite fire cider. So traditionally, fire cider is a base of apple cider vinegar, and you're going to put in 4 main powerhouses. We have horseradish, garlic, onion, and ginger. And then on top of that, you can add kind of whatever you have in the house. So usually in order to make it a fire cider, you want some habaneros, you want some cayennes, you want a little bit of jalapeno to give it that heat, to burn the infection or whatever invader is inside of your body, right? And it's a wonderful thing. So you put the herbs in it, you let it infuse for 6 weeks, you strain it, and you're good to dose your medicine. It's beautiful to be able to make a salad dressing with, just adding a little bit of olive oil. So on my website, www.autumnschultz.com, I have on my homepage where if you sign up for my email newsletter so you can know about different courses, new products and things that I'm coming out with, then will get a free gift from me. And this free gift is a PDF recipe for my favorite fire cider that includes burdock root and astragalus and all kinds of other lovely, yummy herbs. And it also has a 20-something minute edited video that I show you end to end as to how to cut everything, put it in the jars, infuse it, and even the whole straining process. So it's a little bit too detailed, but I wanted you to be able to see every step of the way. So that is my gift to you. If you sign up for my newsletter, then you can have a wonderful video and PDF of a fire cider recipe. So, and you can always add a little bit of honey after straining to be able to make it imbibable, right? To be able to, because with herbal medicine, compliance is everything, and being able to be consistent with your using of it, right? So yeah, we've come to the end of the presentation. There's so many other things that I could share with you guys, but I'm going to save those for other courses that I do on my online learning platform that I am expanding right now. So like I said, if you want to be able to connect more, you can go to my website. There's two websites that take you to the same place. There's autumnschultz.com, and then there's also autumnsharvest.tv. And I have it .tv because I enjoy doing video. It's kind of the medium that I like to express myself in, right? So I do a lot of lives on my Facebook showing how to make herbal medicine and different things like that, talking about food as medicine. From my website, you can get to my business Facebook page, you can get to my Instagram page, and you can also get to my YouTube channel where you can subscribe there as well. and be up to date on new videos and things like that that I put out. I also have a couple of different recipes on my website. There's one for a carrot cake smoothie bowl and a turmeric apple cider vinegar infusion. And I also have a recipe for making infused herbal simple syrups to be able to make your own herbal mimosas. So a little bit of health, a little bit of fun on there. So really overall, just to kind of reiterate, I am an herbal medicine practitioner and a holistic gut health coach, and I was brought to this realm via my father's cancer journey and also healing the different diseases of my own body utilizing food as medicine. So I do have, for people who are interested to maybe work on a deeper one-on-one level, I do have one-on-one consultations and being able to have one-off visits to be able to deal with different symptoms over time, and for me to familiarize and get somebody on my client list, right? So then I also have, I run periodically a group called Build a New Body. It's actually a 4-week group where you go through and you learn how to build your new body, all the way from, the basics of food, what's going on within the standard American diet, being able to support and soothe the GI, because a lot of clients come to me with chronic fatigue. I work with a lot of really high performance business women. And so they are very much paying attention to their business and not necessarily to themselves. So they have chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue, a lot of stress going on in their life. And so I help them bring them back into balance and help restore their gut functions, which, 90% of your serotonin comes from the health of your microbiome in the gut bacteria and their diversity. So I'm a gut health nerd. I'll talk about poop all day long, you guys. So and then I also do some one-on-one VIP courses. I have one course that, depending on how fast people go through it, it takes 3 to 6 months, and it is a mainly all online course where I have weekly videos, worksheets, different activities and things like that, and then I touch base with my clients on the phone. And that's really my biggest hand-holding program, and that's called Time to Thrive, THYME, to Thrive. And you can learn a little bit about that in my one-on-one coursing section on my page. So there's a lot of different ways that I love to help people, but most importantly, I'm beginning my line of herbal medicine teaching courses, and they're all going to be virtual, completely online. You can access them in your pajamas with your cup of tea, all right? And it'll be just like this. I'll be here talking to you, with you, sharing information. So if you want to know about my level 1 home herbalism, starting your own apothecary course, go to my website, sign up for the Firesider recipe, and then you will be on my mailing list, and I will let you know as soon as I release the course. I'm going to be releasing the course within the next few days, and it will actually be on sale for at least the first part of August, and maybe through August there'll be a little bit of an early bird discount for signing up. So make sure to jump over there and see if you're interested in that. We're going to go through my top therapeutic 13 herbs. We're going to go through, the regular things of starting an apothecary. What kind of equipment do you need? What process do I go for harvesting, preserving, and drying all of my herbs and everything like that? And then we'll also dive deeper into doing tea formulations, tinctures, oils, and salves. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of just kind of learning through a fire hose with about herbal medicine, and really empowering people to get started on their journey, to be able to help themselves and to be able to help their loved ones too. So yeah, I guess that's about all that I think I have to share with you guys today. I thank you so much for inviting me into your space, inviting me into your home, and I hope that next year I'll be able to see you in person at the Herbal Forum. And until then, yes, feel free to friend me on Facebook, reach out to me if you have any questions. My email, my personal cell number is on my website, so totally feel free to reach out. I love to connect, and I love to help people learn how to use plant medicine in order to prevent and reverse disease. So until I see you next time, I wish you many blessings and love and light.